Welcome to episode 4 of the Rockman Power Hour. My name is Jason Rockman. How awesome is that theme song? Again, thank you to DMC for that and my buddy Brett. That's something that a lot of people have been humming and sending me messages saying that they're digging the Rockman Power Hour song. So, I mean, I wish I could take the credit for it, but I cannot. That's what happens when you get someone like Darryl McDaniels from Run DMC doing that. So thank you, Darryl, and thank you, Brett. Hey, Ryan, are you excited?
I'm very excited, man. This is such a cool episode because for the first time, like even though Shad is an amazing performer, it's also kind of like getting to experience hip hop evolution through a fan's perspective, man. I love it. This
Yeah.
episode is going to be amazing.
So our guest this week is Shad. Of course, if you like Ryan mentioned, Shad is the Shad is it has a lot of layers in that Shad onion, if you will. This guy is a multi-talented dude. Not only is he an accomplished hip hop artist, he's also the host of one of the most comprehensive and well put together hip hop docuseries that I've ever seen called Hip Hop Evolution. You can watch it on Netflix now. And of course, it's produced by the folks from Banger Films who have been doing documentaries on music for years. And I tend to think, and I think you would agree, Ryan, they're pretty much the best at it. I don't know anyone that does it better than those guys. So
Absolutely.
and I'm excited to have Shad on because there's a lot of stories that we're gonna hear. And again, this is a guy that has had a lot of stuff go on in his career in a relatively short amount of time. Some ups, some downs. But I love the fact that this guy has shown that there's a lot more to him than just being a hip hop artist and a rapper. He's an incredible host. He's an incredible interviewer, and he's a really, really nice guy. So we're excited to have him on the show today. But I wanted to thank our sponsor for this week's episode, and that, of course, is Playground Poker. If you want to get some more information on Playground Poker, you can go to playground.ca. That is their website. Playground is a really, really cool place in Montreal. It's located just over the Mercier Bridge, about 15 minutes from downtown Montreal. They've got over 40 poker tables. They've got 500 slot machines. And Ryan, every once in a while, people are like, I want to go to Vegas. You don't have to go to Vegas. You could just go to Playground Poker and you'll get all that vibe right here in our own city. So I'm really excited that Playground are on board for this week's episode. If you go to Playground, Ryan, and you're gambling and you're on the slot machine, whether you drink or you don't drink, free alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages if you're playing. So that's a nice incentive. And they've got something really cool called the Bad Beat Jackpot. This is the poker Bad Beat Jackpot. And right now it's over $500,000, their jackpot. So go check out Playground Poker. They're located 15 minutes from Montreal, on-site dining. And right now they've got a crazy special. If you're into steak, 10-ounce prime rib and scampi dinner for only $19 on Monday. So go check out Playground Poker. More information at playground.ca. And we want to thank them so much for being the sponsor for this week's episode. Ryan, we're going to have to go out down there with a roll of quarters and get our slot on.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know how to play poker, but I want a VIP treatment that you're talking about because that's amazing. Yeah.
Listen, we can take a roll of quarters each and we can both be a couple of slots. Slots.
Oh, I get it. Yes. I just I'm the type of guy that's going to leave the casino naked because he's lost everything.
Yeah, but you know what? At least you'll have had drinks while you were there for free. And
I suppose so. I can drink for the both of us. That's true. Yeah,
that's it. And so I think we're gonna have to make a trip down there. But honestly, it's a really, really classy place. And everybody that I know that's involved with Playground, who have been there, who have played there as poker players, have had nothing but great things. So thanks again to Playground for being our sponsor for this week's episode. So Ryan, Shad. One thing I wanted to tell you about Shad, and I know you got to watch the documentary, but Shad had this interesting thing happen to him in between him starting off as being a hip hop artist and being the host of Hip Hop Evolution, who now everyone, bows down to because it really is the most comprehensive hip hop documentary ever. He's a great interviewer. He was a great host for that show, but he jumped into some pretty big shoes at one point in his career where he was offered to host a show on CBC called Q. And I don't know if you were familiar with Q, but Q was like the premier interview show in Canada, one of the premier interview shows in Canada, and it was hosted by this guy John Gameshi. John Gameshi ended up turning out to be this horrible. Anyways, I don't want to say anything, but he wasn't a nice guy. Okay, did some pretty questionable things, so he got fired from CBC, and Shad was given the job, and he lasted there, I think, a little under a year. and something happened. And I always felt that, being someone who works in radio, and I understand, I mean, these things happen, it's a volatile business to be in. But when I saw that happen to him, I always wondered why, because I listened and he was really, really good. So when I got a chance to chat with him, I was excited because I wanted to get to know him a little bit, and I always felt that he kind of got shortchanged in that whole exchange. So when he
Wow.
got Hip Hop Evolution, I was really happy for him because, how big of a hip hop fan I am.
Oh yeah.
So to be able to watch that show and go down memory lane and learn some things that I thought I knew, but I didn't know, and at the same time see him flex his hosting skills and his interviewing skills, it was a real pleasure. And it's kind of like one of those things, when you have a friend that might get let go from somewhere, and you're always rooting for them. So when they do come back out on top, you're kind of like, you want to just be like, nanny, nanny, boo, boo, you guys made a bad move. That's how I kind of felt when Hip Hop Evolution came on Netflix and he was killing it. I was like, good for you, man.
Yeah, you know what, man, and something about that documentary I really like seeing is that, like we know Darryl McDaniels, and we've gone on the road and
Yeah.
have documented his record store release, and everybody out there on YouTube, if you want to check out "Coming Like a Rhino," that is a video that I edited and partially shot, and Jason's band Slaves on Dope did a collaboration with Darryl, and there was this whole thing, and we went down to Looney Tunes Records. And it was a big road trip for us,
Right.
a bonding road trip. But after a few days of Darryl's the most welcoming, nice person in the world, and you kind of get used to him. You almost forget he's the icon. So I'm watching Hip Hop Evolution, and it's presenting Run DMC as the Beatles of rap music, and
Which
I'm
they
like,
were.
oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
So by the end of the segment, I'm nerding out hardcore that our theme song is sung by him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I know. Right.
you almost forget.
I know,
Yeah.
because to me, he's just D. He's just
Yeah.
Darryl. So I was so impressed with the way that Shad not only interviewed, but interacted with these legends, because, and we touch on a little bit in our conversation, I know inside he was freaking the fuck out, and no one's going to tell me different. I know it. I mean, when you're sitting in front of certain people that have marked you or that have influenced you, you're going to be a little nervous, and you're going to be, but he was great in that show. He was just great. And his general enthusiasm for hip hop shows. So I strongly encourage people to check out Hip Hop Evolution if you haven't. And I'm really happy to have him on the show, man. He's a wonderful guy. He's a really, really wonderful guy, and a smart guy too. Really smart. You can tell that he's got a good head on his shoulders.
Yeah. He's a hip hop historian, and at the same time, he's never lost that enthusiasm and flair for it. He's not jaded by it. And the fact that he talked to people from the beginnings of hip hop into current day stars is quite amazing to me. For instance, I had no idea who Kool Herc was before this.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to see, like, the guy who had the first hip hop party ever, and Curtis Blow, and all these other people that I've heard about through other books and documentaries, but I'd never actually seen them all speak. And they've all aged amazingly, by the way.
Yeah.
They must be in their 70s by now, but they all look amazing. So Hip Hop Evolution and Shad's performance as a host is nothing but spectacular, and I'm really glad to have discovered the documentary based on our show. So I hope other people discovered the documentary through our show too.
Oh, and let's bring up one other thing. He's also a fucking deadly MC. I mean, the guy is such a good rhymer. And his new record's great. Everything he's done as a rapper has been really, really good, spot on. And I've always thought he was this kind of uncovered Canadian talent. I mean, he's respected in the hip hop community. He's respected by his peers, but I've always felt that this guy should be, I guess, I don't know, I want to say raised up, but he should be put up on a pedestal a little bit more, because he really, really is one of the best MCs we have in this country. So without any further ado, Ryan, let's go to it. Here's my chat with Shad. All right. Really, really happy to have with me on the Rockman Power Hour a guy who I first discovered at the Vans Warped Tour. All these years ago on this tiny stage, and he's gone on to do some incredible things. Shad is with us. So do you remember that Warped Tour?
Do I ever? Yeah. That's what stop were you at?
Montreal. It was at the Montreal show.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So that's got to be, dare I say, 12, 13 more, right? 14 years ago, maybe?
12 years ago. Yeah, it was 2009 Warped Tour. So 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah. So, and I remember you literally played your set, came off stage, and you were selling CDs.
Yep.
And
that was the era.
And I remember going up to you, and I first of all, I mean, I'm a huge hip hop head, and right away I was like, this guy is special. I don't know who this guy is, and that was what I used to love about bands Warped, was that, you know, you never knew who you were going to see at any time of the day. And you walked off stage, and I immediately bought that CD and I passed it around to all my friends. I'm like, this guy is good. And then every time you would do something, they'd be like, you told us about him way back when. So how much of that DIY, aesthetic was important to you?
Man, that was why I started.
Right.
So I grew up in London, Ontario. So, lovely place to grow up. But the music industry was, to me at that time, like something from another planet. You know, I couldn't imagine participating in that when I was a kid. But what changed was when, the DIY thing became a viable option. I started seeing other artists do that. So, man, to answer your question, the DIY thing is why I got started. It made it feel possible for me, and it's also the fun of it. You know, at the end of the day, and I actually discovered this during the pandemic, what I love is making something and connecting around it.
Yeah, exactly.
At bottom, that's what I love. So that's it, man. And the CD era, that's what it was, man. We're slinging CDs. So that's the musical culture that I fell in love with. That is the closest to, what I really love. And it's also the reason why I started. If that scene hadn't come up, I just wouldn't have imagined the possibility for myself of participating in music.
And it's crazy when you think, the importance of that physical object, the importance of being able to say, I got this and you've got to hear this. And I'm not saying that that's gone now, because there is still that ritual that happens where you pass something to someone, and but there is something about having that CD and being able to go, I'm going to trust you with this. And I know when you bring that back to me, that the two little things on the two clips are going to be broken off, and I know that the case is going to be scratched, but just don't mess up the CD.
That's it, man. And yeah, you're right. It does still exist. I don't know what's at the bottom of the psychology of it, but I find when I'm at a concert, I just want to buy something.
Yeah, same.
You just see that merch table. You just want to buy something. And I feel the same thing in like a bookstore.
Yeah.
I'm in a bookstore. It's like, I just want to buy something, so we still, like as human beings, it's like, we like the physical pieces. And when we love something, like if you like books or, knowledge, or you like music, it's like, I feel like buying something is also just buying a physical thing is also just like a way to be a part of it or something.
It's a commitment. You're committing to it, and I agree with you. Like, every time that I walk into a situation, whether it be, going to a screening of a movie, whether it be discovering a new band, going to a show, my first thing is not, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to judge. My first thing is, I want to be your biggest fan.
Yeah.
I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. So I'm going in saying, please convert me. I want to be a fan. So when you have that, and I don't know if that's a childlike thing or if that's just general enthusiasm, but it's funny you touch on that, because I'm the same way. When I go to a show, I'm like, man, I hope those shirts are nice. I hope they're not, I hope they're not using those nasty Gildan, potato sack nipple chafers. I hope they're using like a 30 single ring spun cotton shirt. It's going to fit nice, and they never do. They always use those nasty Gildan, heavy cotton shirts that I can't wear anymore, because just you sweat on them, you're done.
Yeah. They're not. And you know what? That's kind of something that I tell young artists too when they're nervous. I'm like, the audience wants to have a good time, right? Like they like they're rooting for you to do well. They don't want to, so Yeah, man, I hear you.
You've had a really interesting career because you've not only been a musician, you've been a host, you've been a television host, and you've done all of them fairly successfully. What out of those three things, and specifically radio, TV series, and musician, what out of those three of them do you hold the closest? Because I know obviously music's important, but that hip hop evolution had to be gratifying. Because to me, when I saw you do that, and I pointed a lot of kids that like, I don't know anything about hip hop. Sit down and watch that. Everything you need to know is there because it's deep.
Yeah, man.
So out of those three, what for you was the most important, or at least the one that you're the proudest of?
That's such a tough question. I'll put it to you this way. Making music for me it's the heart of everything and it's the start of everything, right? Like I would have had the chance to host Q, the radio show, or host Hip Hop Evolution if it weren't for that. It's so gratifying on a personal level just to get to say my piece. And again, what I love is making stuff and connecting around it. So, music is like very, very close to me, and I had a great time hosting Q on CBC, but Hip Hop Evolution is the one thing that feels surreal to me. Yeah, like it feels surreal. I don't know how that happened. Like, we only set out to make one season, and even that was like a dream come true. But then to get to make more, and that series now exists as like this, it's kind of a important document in the culture.
Oh, it's more than a kind of important document. It to me, it's the benchmark. I mean, there's nothing that's been done like that before.
Yeah, it kind of, there's so many great hip hop docs that have come out since that tell specific stories, but Hip Hop Evolution, gets to occupy this place as like, this is the overview. Like you said, the kid wants to know in general how this thing started and how it's evolved. It's like, you can watch this.
Yeah. I mean, and there's not many musical styles that have that place where you can just go, this is what you need. So for everyone involved in that, kudos, because that and I understand why it would be somewhat surreal, because I'm watching you, and I've posted stuff before, I've interviewed people before. I'm watching you sitting down with these people, and I'm in you right now. I'm in you going, he's freaking the fuck out right now that he's talking to Snoop, and that Snoop's just lit up a massive fucking ruler. Like, it's just, you can tell that the general enthusiasm there. And that's why I think that you got picked for that job.
Thanks, man. I think I didn't try to hide it,
No, but and you shouldn't have. I mean, that's not the time. I think that's the time just to be yourself, and that's what's nice. It's authentic,
Well, what I think it also gave to the series, I really feel like that was a big part of my job, was the enthusiasm, because some of the people we'd be interviewing, like, let's say it's, Ice-T was a pro, but just to use him as an example, right, of somebody who was so important to the foundations of hip hop, but at the same time, we're talking about 30 years ago for a guy who's done a lot in his career.
Yeah.
So what can happen with some of those cats is like, it's hard for them to go back there, in their memory. Like, first of all, it's a long time ago. Secondly, I'm on to other things, sometimes, bigger and better things. And thirdly, there's this thing with human beings where it's hard for us to find our own life that interesting or special. So it kind of takes somebody, having a partner in conversation who is enthusiastic about that chapter in your life can help you go there.
Yes.
Can help you go,
yes.
Oh yeah, that was cool, actually. And oh man, I'm remembering this happened, So I feel like in the context of our series, we really wanted the pioneers to tell the stories themselves, and for them to become storytellers about that chapter in their lives. I feel like it helped that I didn't try to hide that, I was amazed and impressed and genuinely interested to know what it was like back then. And what a blast. What a blast.
Who out of the people you interviewed, And this again is something that's very, very personal, because I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to Bono, I've talked to to Peter Gabriel. I've talked to these people where most people are like, holy shit. But it was when I talked to someone who really had an impact on me as a kid, like, the singer from Simple Minds, that blew my mind, because that was my personal, which for you on that show, who was the one person where you were like, I can't even control myself right now, I'm freaking out?
So the one that surprised me a little bit was, I'll talk about two.
Yeah.
So one that surprised me a bit was Q-Tip.
And
he surprised me because by the time we interviewed him, we were about halfway through the series or something. I talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And talked to people that I looked up to. And, but I wasn't really prepared for what I felt being in front of Q-Tip.
Yeah, I can.
Because it suddenly occurred to me in that moment how much I owe the guy. Like, he is, to me, when I think of hip hop, I think of kind of like a tree. And there's some major branches, some of those first few branches that the other branches come off of.
Yeah.
To me, Q-Tip's one of those.
Oh yeah.
Big time. And I'm one of those guys that came off a branch of Q-Tip.
Right.
He was a guy that, along with De La Soul and others, started this branch of you could call it alternative, you could call it a little bit more experimental, playful, but still funky hip hop and music. Like Pharrell considers himself a child of Q-Tip as well. Right. Like he influenced all of music,
Yeah.
So I was like, the director says, because he was watching the whole time, he's like, that's the only interview you were nervous during. He said you were visibly nervous during that one. And I was like, yeah, because I wasn't. Usually I prepared myself for what I was going to feel, and I wasn't ready for that feeling.
Yeah.
The other one I'll bring up is KRS-One.
Oh yeah, the Blastmaster. The
Blastmaster, because, well, yeah. So talk about preparation. Like with him, I was like, I don't know what to expect. He's KRS.
Yeah.
He's a wild, huge intellect.
Yeah.
And wasn't sure what we were gonna get, and but what we got was, I'll put it this way. He was more entertaining in an interview than most artists are on stage. Like, he's such an charismatic, gifted storyteller. He's the one,
Yeah, he really is.
He's the one. So that was an amazing experience. I want to ask you about Bono. That's a pretty incredible.
So I interviewed Bono. They had played 2 nights in Montreal. They played the first night. I went the second night in the morning at the Bell Center. They send me to do it. It's audio only. So I'm like, all right, that takes a little bit of the, at least no one's going to see me crapping my pants. They're just going to, they're going to hear me. So I go in, and there's Bono and there's Larry Mullen Jr. And I'm in this room backstage at the Bell Center, and you just hear him coming, and he's singing. And the thing with these guys is they're very much aware of what they do to you when they see you. And I think the ones that really care will put you at ease immediately. And I'm sure Q-Tip was probably like that. I hope for you, because Bono was so nice. But I was dying, and I just bought this Zoom recorder. I wanted to have a really good Zoom. I wanted to have everything perfect. Sat down with him, and I brought 2 records to get signed, October and Boy, because I always get my vinyl signed. And I sit down, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and I'm like, fuck, that's fucking Bono, man. That's fucking Bono. Like, I spent my whole teen looking at this guy. I loved him up until, Rattle and Hum. And then I fucking hated him for the longest time. And now I love him again. Cause and that's just part of being a stupid kid.
Yeah.
So I start the interview. I'm like, all right, well, I'm here with Larry Mullen Jr. and The Edge. So, and then Larry goes, you might want to start again. I go, why? He goes, you just called Bono The Edge. Dude, I just said, I'm a fucking idiot. And everyone laughed. And then and then I was fine. And then I was fine. And then when I brought my vinyl to him at the end, he signs one, he gives it to me, and he signs the other one. He's laughing. I go, why are you laughing? He goes, I signed at The Edge. So it was really, really, whenever anyone asks me the story I have from, one of the weirdest, it's that one, because I was so nervous. I mean, I was so fucking nervous. So I know what you were going through doing that. And it's, and you pulled it off, but I'm sure inside you were like, but at the same time, it's fun, right?
Yeah, no, it's so fun. You're nervous every single time, but I'm used to that from performing. And I know that the nerves are actually a good thing. The nerves mean you care.
Yeah, exactly.
And then as soon as you hop into it, it's okay, but you're right. There's certain people where the feeling is different,
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the level of celebrity. Sometimes it's their impact on you personally that makes that feeling a little bit different. And it's a little bit harder to shake,
Yeah.
Now what helped too with Hip Hop Evolution that was cool was that once we would get into it, like let's say someone like Busta Rhymes, right? Like I'm a crazy Rhymes fan, of course, Yeah. But what we were talking about, which made it easier, this is compared to say Q, right? What made it a bit easier is all our conversations on Hip Hop Evolution, at the end of the day, we're kind of just nerding out about hip hop.
Right.
So someone like Busta Rhymes, very quickly, the whole interview, he's just a fan. He's just fanning out.
Yeah.
He's just talking about this artist he loved and that artist he grew up with and how badly he wanted to be in Tribe. You know what I mean? And so Lil' Kim was another one where you get into the room with her and there's all the makeup people and all the everybody, and I felt nervous, but then as soon as she starts talking about hip hop,
just the nerves, the whole room goes,
she's the chillest, coolest, funniest person,
Yeah.
And so that always helped, because we're at the end of the day, we're just talking about music, and our show also is it's just a celebration, right? So I'm not that we had to do this on cue, but I'm not holding anyone's feet to the fire. You know what I mean? It's if we're talking to you, it's because you did something that we want to celebrate in the series.
Yeah, it's all good vibes. There's no one's on. I don't think I never felt in any of those interviews during that show, and I watched all of it, that anyone was guarded. It felt like everyone was open, and that's what was nice. And obviously, having to bring a cake to somebody that was great. That was great because I had heard that story. I had heard that story that he needs a cake. If you interview him.
Schoolie D. Yeah, and that was the other fun, right? Is like these are characters, man.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them. So like Schoolie D. Yeah, he wanted a cake. And at first our producer, when he said I need some cake, she thought he was talking slang, like he needs some money.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it would make sense, right?
But he's like, no. I want some cake, like literally a cake.
And it's kind of like that Van Halen story where they all, they only wanted brown M&Ms or red M&Ms. It's kind of like one of those things. I'm going to do it because I can, but but it was so expertly shown in the doc as something that was playful, where I'm sure other people were like, "You want to fuck you? I'm not bringing you a cake." Click.
Well, it serves two purposes for him. One, it's just funny. He's just a funny guy. Uses him, and then secondly, he likes cake. But thirdly, that's how he knows you're serious.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's an initiation. Obviously, you passed it. He seemed to really like the cake when he opened it. I mean,
he didn't offer us any.
That's dirty.
That was the biggest part to me. It was that it was a huge cake, it was heavy and dense, and he just bodied it all.
So was there part of you that when you get there, you're like, I'm hungry. We haven't stopped to eat. I'm getting a piece of that cake, and you were expecting it?
I totally was like, oh yeah, this guy's hilarious. He's a joker, and then he's gonna divvy up this cake. It's a huge cake.
Yeah,
he was just like, yeah, nice, and closed it up, took it home.
So the new album, you got a lot of stuff coming up. I mean, obviously the new record just dropped. You got the tour that you just announced, but you've been with this label now. This is the second or third record? Second album.
Second. Yeah.
Right. How has it been over there? Because this is a indie rock label. I know all the artists on that. label, and it's a great label because they have some great artists on that label. But when I saw you were joining, I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then I heard the record, and they sent me a copy, the first one. I was like, all right, this seems like you found a home. Are you still feeling that way 2 albums in?
Yeah, totally. You know, like I always think of the people that I work with on the business side, just like partners and human beings, you know? And so I always evaluate it on that basis of who is smart and committed.
Right.
That's my thing. Especially in the climate now, because the music industry is like, it's anyone's guess.
Yeah.
Changing every year. I mean, it's changed the whole time. We started this interview talking about the CD era, you know? It's like, look, things change all the time. So to me, it's a matter of, you want to work with people who are smart, and not, by smart, I mean, they're open to what's actually happening. Their minds are open to what's actually happening, and they're not trying to cling to whatever era they know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
They're open to learning and changing. And then the second thing is like just commitment. Are they committed to the actual music? And the roster that they have, I'm like, yeah, these guys, they like real music, creative stuff, and they stand behind it. You know, they're doing the regular record label thing, which is kind of thinking of different artists like a little bit like lottery tickets, you know, like let's put a little bit of effort behind everybody and see who ends up winning. You know, they seem like they push all of their artists, you know.
Oh yeah. And you know, Secret City really seems to be a career like label place. You know, you see people, you know, that are 4, 5, 6 records in. But I was happy when you landed there because Justin, you know, I've known Justin since he's like 15, and he's, you know, he's someone that is a genuine fan of music. So I think I'm glad. And Tao, man, I mean, you know, I've always said this about you since that first time I saw you at Vans Warped Tour. This is a guy that can be on par with anybody. You know, you're not just a Canadian rapper. You're someone that could easily be on par with anybody in terms of your skills, in terms of the, you know, lyrical content, the delivery. And it feels like on this record, you know, I don't want to say it's more playful than the last album, but it seems a bit more like, all right, we're going to deal with the subject on this song. And it seems a bit more like subject oriented per track. Am I right?
Yeah, totally. Totally. And it's more playful, you know, like,
because like when I first, you know, the old Prince, that record was so playful, you know?
Yeah.
So it seems like a bit of that came back.
Yeah, it's a bit of that came back, which is what I love to do. You know, the last album, the concept of that album kind of required that I don't do that, you know?
Yeah.
But it's what I love to do. I love making people feel good.
Yeah.
You know, so I love putting humor and energy and kind of spark into my music whenever I can. So this is a bit of a return to that. And each song is pretty focused, you know, pretty, there's layers to some of them, but like, you know, they're pretty focused. The song's called Work Is About Work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that was a goal with this one. I was really looking forward to that, to getting back to a little bit more of that playful side, even though I'm talking about the world as it is, which, as we all know, is insane. But
it is very insane. But you know, it's funny because I feel like we're slowly we're seeing the end of it. You know, I'm like starting to go to shows again. You know, have to wear a mask. We did part of Comic-Con. I'm a spokesperson for a couple of Comic-Cons. Started to do a couple of Comic-Cons, one in Winnipeg, one in Quebec. You know, we're masked up, but we're together in the same room, so that energy's there. So I think when this all went down, and I don't know what your attitude was like, but my attitude was like, all right, this is going to be a while.
Yeah.
And I knew this wasn't going to be a couple of weeks. When they were saying, you know, we just need you to sit on your couch for 2 weeks, I was like, no, pandemics are 24 to 36 months. This is going to be a while.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
No, but I think people would have went crazy if they would have said that right off the bat.
Yeah. I always think about, when I think about that, I always think about, this is going to sound strange, but I'm going to get there. I think about airport lineups. You know how they snake? I always feel like part of that snaking of the lineup is just because psychologically, if you were at the back of this insanely long line where you can't see the front, like we would all break down.
Yeah.
You know, when it snakes, you feel like every once in a while you feel like you're getting to the end of something.
Yeah.
And I think that that's true too with the pandemic and how they had to give out little bits of information at a time, you know,
Yeah.
et cetera, because we're not really built for the reality that we've
No.
come to now, you know, but we're not really built for that, fortunately, right?
Yeah.
Like we've had a nice few decades here in Canada without, you know, going through anything that wild. You know, there's other countries where they told them straight up,
Yeah.
you're staying home for this long, it's going to be like this.
Yeah.
And people are, okay, cool, because they have in their population a memory of something.
Of hard times. Yeah. No, I think for North Americans, as the street cleaner goes by, I think for North Americans, someone said this the other day, this was kind of like our World War II, you know,
Yeah.
This is kind of like our World War II. And if our World War II was like, you have to wash your hands and like stay home. I mean, it just shows you the world we're in. And maybe we're in a bit more of an evolved world. But it's, you know, it's not so bad. I mean,
No, it's not that bad. You got to zoom out. You know what I mean?
I know you got to get a perspective and realize like, I got to do a lot of stuff that I didn't get to do before, like spend time, you know, having conversations with people I didn't get to spend, you know, talk to, did a couple of cool projects, some music projects from a distance, like got to do some different stuff. And it opened up my mind to saying, you know, we can communicate like this and we can still have connections. It doesn't mean, you know, there's a lot of issues that existed before this pandemic. I think if anything, it had people open their eyes and go, oh, this is really, so I think there's a lot of good that's going to come out of it personally.
Yeah. I hope so too. I think that at a certain point, being able to get together, like you were saying, with the Comic-Cons and stuff, like being able to get in the same room becomes important.
Yeah.
At a certain point. Of course, if we couldn't do that, then we couldn't do that. But you know, that's if there's anything that worries me, it's like let's get back together soon, you know, because the social muscles can start to atrophy and we can get how to be society, you know. I mean, it was already getting pretty bad with that in terms of you know, just the divided nature of our society and stuff. So it's like we don't need to add to that problem by being isolated forever. So
yeah.
I am hopeful though. I am hopeful that in getting back together, we can we can start to address some of the stuff that, like you were saying, was going on before, but the pandemic really highlighted.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it is different. You know, I think it even gives us an appreciation for being together. You know, I've been to a couple of shows recently, and it's like, it feels different when people are together, man. You go out to a restaurant, to a bar, and there's people in the room. It's just, you just feel better. Your outlook on life is just better.
Yeah.
You know?
It's nice when you see people and you go somewhere and you feel that energy, because it really is what makes us different than anything else. And, you know, that anything else on this planet is that, you know, we kind of thrive off that. We thrive off that energy. And speaking of that, you know, you got your tour that's kicking off. You were smart, I think, to wait till 2022 to really be like, we're really going to be in a good place. But you're kicking that off on the 29th of April. And it's a pretty extensive tour. Are you excited for that? You must be dying to get on stage.
Yeah, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. Like I said, what I love to do at Bottom is to just make something up, make anything up, and connect around it. And the live experience is still what makes it all make sense. You know, the music industry changes, the business changes, the digital environment changes, but what has not changed in the time I've made music is stepping on stage, having an experience with people.
Yeah.
That has not changed one bit. You know, that's still the same fun. It's still the same experience. It's still a real connection. And so I'm really excited to do that again and see everybody again. And we were talking about nerves before. It's like I'm nervous, but it's good nerves.
Good nerves. Yeah.
It's good nerves. I performed a little bit in the summer, but like I'm rusty. You know, I gotta rehearse, shake off some rust, and make sure I can still do this again at the level that I want to be able to do it.
When was the last time you put on a pair of pants with a button? Because I've been just living in sweatpants.
I think jeans maybe 5 times in the last year.
I have amassed an incredible collection of sweatpants. And I don't know if I'm ever going to go back.
It's hard to go back, man. Even jeans it feels like a tuxedo.
It's awful. It's like jeans are like suit pants now.
100%.
I no more. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. And again, for me, it's really nice to chat with you because I believed in you from the minute I first saw you. And to be a fly on the wall, watching your success and watching you do all these things genuinely makes me happy because you deserve it. You've got that great energy, and I think you're going to continue to do more and more great things.
Man, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Oh, dude, that was awesome, man.
Yeah, he's a pretty special guy.
I really like the bond you guys have. Like every time you have a guest that you like have known previously, I mean, you have a gift. You could always talk to somebody and it's like you've known them for years, but you actually have known them for years. And it was really cool to see the Warped Tour stories I love, but that's his old music, but he has some new music coming out, right?
Yeah. So it's funny because I the first time I met him was at Warped Tour, like we discussed in the interview. And I sight unseen, I bought the CD. That CD was passed around to so many people, that album, The Old Prince. And I've always followed him ever since, so it was nice to catch up today. His new record, Tao, is really, really good. It just came out I think, a couple of weeks ago on Secret City Records. And it's just a solid hip hop offering, man. The guy can, as they say in hip hop, the guy can spit, and he is very, very, very accomplished at wordplay. And he just knows what he's doing. He's at this point in his career, he's a bunch of records deep. So I think he's got the confidence and I think he knows who he is. And he's one of these guys that I want to continue following and continue seeing where he's going to go, because I think he's got a lot more in him.
Yeah. And, really grateful to have discovered the documentary series Hip Hop Evolution. Of course, they're on their 4th season right now on Netflix. And it's actually quite an evolution to see, because it's crazy when you think about it starting in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And the rap music I know and love is from the 90s. But that's only 20 years. And if you take the mid 70s, that's less than 20 years. So it's kind of crazy when you think about how in 20 years they went from the Furious Five dressing kind of like Rick James and all these like these leather outfits, exposed chest and all that, to like the badass gangster rap that you see in the 90s. And it's almost like the Jetsons meeting the Flintstones meeting the Jetsons.
Yeah. It really is. And I mean, look, it depends who you talk to. And I'm in a weird place because I really came up in that first wave of hip hop. So I have this affinity and I have this love for it, but there's some new guys out there that are pretty good. But I always risk sounding like, the old man yelling at a cloud when I say this kind of stuff, but back in my day, but I really do feel that back in my day, hip hop was at a different place. But there are, I think with hip hop and with rap, there's got to be a respect to the craft. There's got to be a respect to the wordplay with the rhyming. And when someone's not, and I think it's become such a big genre of music now that there's a lane for everybody. There's certain lanes that I don't want to drive down or drive in when it comes to hip hop. Quite a few, but Shad, man, he's one of the guys that I think holds up with any of the OG guys. He's from that school of thought. Those are the ones, when he talks in our conversation about how nervous he was when he met Q-Tip. I mean, A Tribe Called Quest are so important to me. So I can get that. I mean, I stood in front of Ali Shaheed Muhammad, who's Tribe Called Quest's DJ, when he came to Montreal and played in his jazz combo band. And I was nervous just meeting him. So I get it, so that's why I'm so impressed with what he was able to do on Hip Hop Evolution and be such a solid host. But yeah, as a rapper, man, like we can't forget that he's a very, very good rhymer. And I think the more people that listen to him and get into him, and that's why I was really excited to have him on, because I wanted to shine a light on him, because I think he deserves it. I really do.
For sure, man. Absolutely.
All right, Ryan. So we got to again thank our sponsor for this week, Playground Poker. If you're not familiar with Playground Poker, if you live in Montreal, they're just 15 minutes over the Mercier Bridge, and you are literally in poker heaven. I mean, they have got over 40 poker tables, over 500 slot machines. They offer free beverage service to players, alcoholic and non-alcoholic alike. And right now, they've got the Bad Beat jackpot, which is over $500,000. for poker. So yeah, I mean, part of me wants to just go try my skills and see if I can win it, although I probably won't. They're open 24/7, and you can get more information at www.playground.ca. We want to thank them again for having faith in us and for being this week's sponsor for the Rockman Power Hour.
Awesome, man. And you know what? The amount that you just displayed was so powerful that my dog knocked something over in the other room as soon as you said it.
$500,000. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
who wouldn't want to take the chance to win $500,000, right?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, dude, it's been great. So, yeah, do we tell everybody who is in the next episode, or are we going to keep doing that thing where we kind of like, hold them on a line and tell them on Monday?
I think we should tell them on Monday, but what I can say, and what you can attest to as well, is that we've got a lot of really, really cool people on the way. We've had some really cool guests already. So we want to just encourage you to, if you're watching on YouTube right now, to go down below and subscribe and push that little alarm button. You will be alerted when a new episode is loaded up. Also, if you're listening on your streaming platform, just subscribe to the podcast and you'll be alerted every time we put up a new episode. And Ryan, we've got such an overwhelming response that there's a chance that there's a few weeks coming up where we might have double episodes in a week. So just keep it locked on all the social media. You can find us over on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find me as well on Instagram at The Real Jason Rockman. And that's where we put most of the information on the Rockman Power Hour. Again, let's give out some thanks, Ryan. I want to thank everybody involved in this week's episode. Our producer, Julia Kajerski. I want to thank everyone who helped put this episode together, like yourself. And also want to thank everyone involved with helping us get Shad on the show. And a big thanks to Shad as well. Thank you for being on our show. And we really appreciate you. And we will see you next Friday for another episode of the Rockman Power Hour.